0. All right, so we're gonna start with the expense side, and then once we're at the end of that, then we can discuss all the staffing, so we can get through the actual part that we actually vote on, so. Yeah.
Half a dozen questions.
Sure.
I'll start with a simple matter and I'll end up with you. Your attention, everybody's attention is drawn to account 0304. And down at the bottom is line item 0307, the ambulance police. It's the very first page in the fire section.
The department summary page, right?
Yes.
0307.
Yes, ma'am. The very first page in the police section. Fire section. Has everybody found it? Is that the lease that we entered into last year?
That's the ambulance police from where it's all done now. That's what we paid for last year's ambulance.
Okay. Last year's ambulance. So it's a multi-year, is it a multi-year lease or a one-year lease?
The lease, but what it was a payment for the ambulance. It wasn't a lease, it was a payment where they borrowed X amount of dollars on the two ambulances we first had in service. And last year was the last payment of that.
Okay, but we did enter into a lease for a brand new ambulance last year, third ambulance, is that correct? And how much is that lease payment?
I believe it's gonna be 60,000 as well.
So it's also gonna be on the order of $64,000. Thank you. Where in the budget is that money?
Well, that was in Melissa's. I guess that'll be up to town manager.
We haven't talked about where to put that money, although I would imagine it would be in the fire department budget. In the operating budget, which is where the leases are told by us by legal counsel, is where to put them.
Okay, so ballpark numbers, we should put under the department request for fiscal year 27, 64,245 or thereabouts. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. In recent communications between the fire department staff, all members of the budget committee, and at least some of the members of town council, staff claims that 2 firefighting vehicles are in imminent danger of failure. Is that correct? That also is claimed in the apparatus update document. Those are both costly pieces of equipment. Is that correct? Correct. If you replace both, what's the total? Ballpark. 6 million.
If we
Buy new. And service life is what, 10 years? 20 years.
Come on with 30 years old.
If you lease it, what's the standard lease? 10 years, 5 years? Okay, $6 million worth of, yes, sir.
For comparison purposes, the leases in the public works department are all 6-year leases.
6-year leases.
That's kind of an industry standard where the maintenance costs start going up, which is one of the big reasons to lease.
Okay. On a lease, the arithmetic's a little bit difficult, but I would say that if 6-year lease, $6 million worth of equipment, it should be at least $200,000. Ballpark it for this time. So we should we add to the department request $200,000?
we never talked about this, we haven't out there with any thought of buying a new truck, but. We can add it if you're interested. I mean,
I've looked it up and I know that you can buy used equipment. I know ballpark what that is. I would think $150,000 a year for the next few years to replace both of those vehicles is a good ballpark figure to include.
we've been buying these.
So we should,
I think that funding belongs in capital though.
well,
Yeah.
but it's not in capital.
But it doesn't belong in the
And it's-
expense.
It's not in TIF. My point is that the Lincoln budget should include funds to replace, refurbish, or repair that equipment.
The leasing options are shown in the operating budget as per our accountant and legal accountant.
In the capital service,
No, in the operating budget. Capital is for purchases. Leases should be shown in operating.
okay,
I believe the town's done capital leases before. I think that's been the way it's been done in the past.
What's shown in the capital?
Shows capital improvement under 0307 in the capital section.
Okay,
Of 72,000, but again, it's last year, that's not this year. Showing us a decrease. There's also, well, is there another one, but there is at least that ambulance list.
well, there's scuba equipment also in books. So I'm happy to put it wherever it belongs. For simplicity's sake, clarity's sake,
sure.
should we add it to 0304?
Well, I do think that if for simplicity's sake, and for continuity's sake, that we should put it in this operating budget here.
All right, thank you. So in place of this striker equipment lease, let's just put fire vehicle leases.
0308.
Yes, ma'am. So, and under fiscal year 27 ballpark numbers, you all have time to refine this number before it goes to town council. We're gonna put in $150,000.
So just a question, might as well for consistency's sake. Because the police equipment was similar last year reported in the capital account. I'm not actually seeing this under the police section either. I see fuel and maintenance, there is an amount for one Ford Explorer. So it seems to me it's a little bit inconsistent
So we'll need an adjustment with the police.
in the adjustment. Like, it's capital, it gets treated as capital. It's operating, it gets treated as operating, and it needs to be consistent throughout the budget.
So the point is, somewhere in the budget, we need to add money for that equipment. Please go up to line 0040 vehicle fuel. We've already exceeded the 2020, the 2026 budget of 16,140. The running rate is about $24,500. That's significantly above the department request for the pending fiscal year. Should we adjust that number upward? And I actually have a related question. Why is the department over its budget already? Is it because you bought more fuel?
There's a lot more fuel. That's the only way that we'd be over it, to find more fuel.
Well,
And
5%.
also the price is significantly higher.
I checked that. It, on average, for the first 9 months of the current fiscal year, it's about 5% above where it was over 9 months of the prior fiscal year. So the likely reason is that most of that is more fuel than current.
The only time fuel is burned is fire trucks or ambulances. If anyone takes a personal vehicle, it's with gas mileage.
So fuel, transportation fuel costs are way up right now. Should we adjust?
We can discuss that when we actually get to that line item.
Okay.
Yeah.
I go up to overtime wages, which is line 002. We've already paid out the entire overtime budget. The annualized rate for the current year is about $520,000, which is substantially above the $369,000. That you've requested for 27.
We have got a grant money that pays for our $70,000 of our overtime. Because they were in classes, so that'll offset some of the overtime.
In round numbers, if you add 3% for the wage increase during the coming fiscal year, we're looking at $536,000. So that's what, $170,000 more? Is the current running rate exceptional, or is it likely to be repeated?
It's the way it is, I mean, yeah, so it's not exaggerated, it's the calls that we're having and the overtime we're having.
All right. Line 001 wages. Again, we're 1 month ahead of the budget. If we continue to do that and add 3% for the pending wage increase, we're looking at an actual outlay next year on the order of $1,410,000. So that's an additional $120,000. George, thank you. I turn it over to you.
Can I ask a quick question, George, over at you?
Yeah.
Is some of that overtime cheap because we're understaffed or?
Whenever somebody calls in sick, whenever they have gone training, we have to fill over them. So if we had extra people that could work those shifts at straight time, then it would take care of it. So wait, sorry. No, go ahead.
The fires aren't all fault too, so we're averaging a building fire in 2 weeks, that's 15 people that are off duty.
Right.
The fire already, I mean, they're available to you. If whoever available, so sometimes like we stay with the black and zero, it could be all those numbers.
I'm just wondering if we was down a person or two, if that was contributed.
What's the mandatory, is it 4 hours of overtime if we get called in?
How it's owned, fire calls, and then 3 hours overtime, anything I'm telling.
And I do remember, I don't know what was decided last year, but the goal was essentially to have what they call the county man on staff that wouldn't be on overtime, but that would come in. Yeah, they wouldn't be technically, they'd be getting paid not to be there, but it would be someone that would come in and cover, and it wouldn't be overtime. And essentially the goal was to cut overtime by a significant amount, but I don't think that ever happens.
George, I have a question.
Yep.
So currently your contract with the firefighters doesn't allow you to put somebody into an overtime position if they're at training. Is there a minimum amount?
I don't understand what you're asking.
Is there a minimum amount you have to offer as overtime when somebody's at training before you can fill it with?
No, it's whenever they're in overtime.
So there's no minimum.
Okay, we will start with,
One last question. My understanding, and I could be completely wrong, is that you've trained a number of new folks. Is the amount of training expected to reduce if you have a stable staffing level that is maintained and not people leaving? Like if they're on training and you got a backfill and that's
Yeah.
driving the overtime. If you had a stable workforce where you're not constantly hiring and replacing, would that see the
It
overtime
would help.
drop?
We've had one gentleman out with a cardiac issue. And we've had to go in shift. For the last few months.
Move this order to 009, travel expense for a total amount of $7,700 provided. Page 50.
Page 50.
Assuming this decision came out, travel to Springs.
That would be travel, training, that would be even. Hire instructors coming to our station. And people go to the fire academy. And so, I mean, you can see that. It's $7,500 and back then we should give to the academy.
You know, population fiscal year 25.
It was in 25. In last year. We did not spend any of that, so we got there. I think it was 7,700. Yeah, that was all coming. I know, that we spent 67, 67.
Plus the grants, 2,700 plus the grants.
So
How much was the grants?
The grants were $70,000.
So there's. You had 7,700 budgeted for last year, you've spent 712 out of it. You don't expect to, because you have grants, you don't expect to spend any more of that line item, correct?
There's 70,000 paid a lot of the over. So that was just the expenses.
So the, and you're gonna have more people going to the academy this year.
Yeah.
So again, just my thought would be. Provided that that item is not spent down. Prior to July 1st would be to just replenish the 712.46 and then put the rest in a reserve account. If you might. That's what I would suggest.
As you can hear, right now in that expense, there's 6987 unexpended balance. So we really only spent $800 out of the.
So again, you're paying private vehicle mileage rather than having.
We were for the first 8 months. 7 months, and we're paying people's mileage going first job for the paramedic school. But now we have the old police school coming to use them, so we're not, we're just buying gas that we're not getting out.
And you anticipate that that will be happening in FY 27.
We're hoping that the old cruisers keep going and
I just want to point out that the cruisers have been a big help, but it doesn't remove 100%. Once in a while, at any given department, somebody uses their own vehicle, but it is much reduced.
And that school is in Prescott, you said last, but next year, the same place.
next year, there's nobody scheduled for paramedic school next year. But Fire Academy is scheduled in Bangor. And we'll have people going to advanced school. I would think it should, hopefully we'll have some more paramedic school, but I don't believe so.
Where is this advanced course? Is that in Bangor?
Advanced school could be in Bangor, or it could be, that much being in Prescott. Last time we had advanced, it was in Pat. In Greenville, that's right.
There's very few agencies that will put those classes on, and it's kind of, the class pops up where the demand is, type of thing.
Is it fire departments that are putting those on, or is it? You
The
said it was-
style class was sponsored by Northern Maine Community College.
Okay.
The last advanced school they put on, I believe, the Greenville Fire Brigade had like 5 or 6 people that wanted to take it, so. United out of Lewiston actually sent an instructor all the way to Greenville once or twice a week to teach that class.
We have tried to put them on locally, but we just do not have enough people.
Even with Allen, so we're just not. Okay. I was just gonna say, if there's a way that we could do it, then if we had enough, that they would send somebody, that'd be great, but. All right, I'll make a motion to. Take the remaining 69,8754, move that to the reserve account and fund that line item 712,46, which is the amount that's been spent this year. On it.
I'll second it. Charlie seconded.
Oh, excellent. Second, any other discussion?
So just a question. Assuming that happens, how will that show up? On the working budget for fiscal 2027?
It'd be, so 712,46 for that line item. And then. Round down, 712.
59, for reserve account.
Yep.
Okay. Sounds good.
All those in favor? Anyone opposed? I'm trying to listen. All right, 12-0.
I have one question, just because it's a little bit of an anomaly within the wages section. That there's $30 a week allocated for a payroll slip that I don't see in the department.
We're not paying that anymore. Put it up, payroll part, that was when the lady from the police department was doing it for us.
So that's 1560 out of the budget. I'm not paying for that anymore.
Right.
Oh, it's just curious if that came in under split with the payment bills.
All right, item 0010, professional development. We'll start. It's 3,100, 33,705.
I'm gonna ask the first question if I don't mind.
Yeah.
Can you break down this 30,000, this fire EMS training? How many people does that pay for and
That paid,
is each cost?
as you can see, there's $10,266 we have not used this year. But again, that paid for the paramedic, 2 pair people go paramedic school. And that also paid for 2 people go to advanced EMT school. And it paid for people go to basic school, free for basic school. And it hazmat class. And some pump classes. Legal courses.
So for $23,500, that's what was accomplished this year.
That's correct.
How many new employees did you have this year to put through that training?
As far as brand new employees, just 2, but we had several employees that were doing advanced. They had basic classes, they went to advanced. They went to 502 classes. There's a lot of that. Well, it continues to think.
Are you anticipating any more training between now and the end of the fiscal year?
We have trained this come tomorrow, Thursday, will be our last big day.
What's your estimated value on that?
It is, well, is just kind of half for.
To be there operating, we use no money for the other materials or set anything up for that. Everybody's gonna be there.
So that'll be in the overtime budget, not in this training budget.
So that's just
So this is
internal.
tuition that you're paying out of this.
That's it.
Any idea, like, what is the average cost of each of these schools that you just named? Like $500 per person?
The fire academy is like 4 piece up front, plus the books, then different equipment they need. The paramedic course, I believe, like $2,500 a piece for semester. Does that sound right? And the advanced class was a couple $1,000 per semester. And the basic EMT course is very the same ballpark. It's college courses now, you're paying a semester cost.
And how many semesters to get a certificate?
There would be for an advance, there would be 1 semester. For basic, it'd be 1 semester. For a paramedic class, it'd be 4 semesters.
I think I heard 2 in the background. Is it 1 or 2?
EMT is 1, advanced EMT is 2, paramedic is 3, altogether from nothing to paramedic is 2 years.
So it's 3 semesters for the final certificate that you mentioned? Yes, sir. Okay. So at $2,000.
So
And 3 semesters takes
A year.
a year and a half?
A year.
1 year. Okay. So it would be, for that final certificate, it would be on the order of $6,000. Per,
There are differences, so, the course load varies per semester. The second semester, the heaviest, it's 18 credits. So what you're paying for tuition changes, I think altogether for a year of paramedic is about 10,000
per training,
for the year.
per training,
Yes,
Per
sir,
training,
yes,
that's
per,
right.
yeah, per person.
$10,000. And that's the basic paramedic, or that's the final certificate?
There's only, so there's 3 levels. There's EMT, that's your basic. There's advanced EMT, that's the next level up, and then there's paramedic, which is the top level.
Could I get your name?
$10.
Thank you.
Mary?
So State of Maine's introduced 3 community college, and this is 3 community college. It sounds like your basic fire academy at least, and maybe UMT. Are we hiring folks within the 3 years post high school age to be able to take advantage of that free tuition?
We tried to get some in under that at EMP state, and it did not work, but they're saying that this year is possible, we can get them.
I mean, I appreciate the value of training. I just also know that there's a number of avenues for getting a lot of that offset, and I realize it's work to investigate.
And that's where we got the EMS grant, that paid a lot of that up front. So
And then it's hanging on to the people that you've spent $10,000 on training. And ensuring we're able to retain them, so we're not having to bring in new people and train them.
There's reoccurring training that we bring to offer.
There is a lot of reoccurring,
No,
set by the
this is a very
state,
heavy-
or state or federal, that's why we had someone from outside, and then we set all of our hazmat certificates last 1 year ago. But that's something we've got to hit every year.
Understand, appreciate that. I'm just looking at the, the step up from basic into EMT to advanced EMT paramedic as your core.
And there's gonna be a lot more training coming up, because if or when the mill starts moving, we're gonna need training.
You can find space training now.
We're not legally to find training. No, we don't have all the proper equipment, and we don't have the training, so that is something we have.
Is the $3,100 left under instructor conference? Is that to get somebody on board in your department that can be an instructor? Is that what that's for?
That was in, we had sent some people to the instructor conference. Right? And that, so they can come back and teach us. But it's not basically empty, that would be for. Instructor on confined space, that we can send someone to, and. They can bring it back to us. But that's still, because they're time and a half, we have to pay the time and a half for people to be in the class.
Right, but if you've got people who can do the training, then you could host a training session here.
That's correct.
You mentioned a $70,000 grant. Can that be used to pay the premium cost?
I would say this year. It's counting how the grants are wrote and it's counting how they offer it, but we are hoping to be able to use some of the training grants. This year it was clarified as EMS grants, point blank. So we'd have to send it for EMS instructor. But this year is say they're going to open it up for more.
Who is offering the grant? What?
The grant is main EMS.
Me?
Main EMS, yeah.
So the answer is, we don't know.
With the answers, we don't know if they're gonna let us do that. Or not.
We do not at this moment have in hand grant money that can be used to pay training for independent.
Only, we just got awarded a 34 for EMS,
34,000?
34,000 for EMS.
The big question was asked earlier, how many people will be trained for emergency medical related services or certificates? And how many will receive fire?
For this next year, we have at least 2 that's gonna go to the fire academy. And of those right now, it's only 1 that's gonna go to basic EMT, and hopefully we'll have several that want to go up the exams. Which several would be 2.
What's your typical turnover? Are you seeing 1 to 2 positions a year?
We haven't had really any turnover.
Okay.
For quite a while.
About a year.
Again, the fire academy tuition, if you will, to get a certificate is how much?
I think it was 4,
Yeah,
and that was for
450, it was 2 weeks. No, it's
$450. So $450 for each of two fire academies.
That's right.
last year. We sent 3 to that, and that's entry level training. Sent 3 of that last year, sending 2 this year.
If I understand correctly, for basic EMT training, it's about $6,000 for the certificate.
They're basically all 2.
$2,000, thank you.
That's because there's books and it's tested. Yeah.
Okay. And for the advanced is how much?
We do 2 books
Another
For
2,000
per semester.
for the certificate.
How many semesters?
There's 1 semester where 2 advanced, right? No, 2 semesters advanced.
That's
2 times 4,000 is $8,000. Plus 1 for basic EMT, that's $10,000. Plus another 950 for 2 people going to the fire academy. So that's roughly $11,000. Is that correct?
That'd be for the other town crafts, yes.
And was it, so after you get the basic EMT advanced, then was it 10,000 to become a like for the paramedic course itself? So to go from nothing to paramedic would be $20,000 roughly.
I would say roughly more than that, and that's without the mileage. If we have to, I'll direct the vehicle, and without.
What you pay for overtime to cover, so,
That's right, in the overtime is.
but just for the courses, it would be about.
That's correct.
said, 2 going to fire academy at a cost of $450 each, that's $900. 1 basic EMT said was 2K, is that 2K total or 2K per semester for the EMT?
So the EMT is only 1 semester.
And then 2 for the advanced, which is 2,000 a semesters, 2 semesters, so 4,000 in total. So you said 2 possibly for advanced, that's 8,000. My math says 10,900 for those positions.
If we go over to page 49. Towards the bottom of the top block of numbers, which is overtime, there is an entry called training. Would you please explain that number?
So you're on 49, well, I don't know if that's the same page I have here. You're talking overtime?
got training hours 15 times 32. Is 19,750.
That was department training, that's department in-house department training,
So that's in-house training.
that's right.
So in addition to that, we may or may not pay overtime to cover staff that are receiving training offsite.
We would be paying overtime. Yeah.
Is that reflected anywhere in the budget?
That would be in the training hours. But, and it's just regular. To be honest with you, it's just the overtime line itself.
Maybe that's why you're going over, because you're not budgeting for that overtime for somebody to go to training outside of the regular training that they're having in-house. And that's, I think, what you're getting at, David. It's not noted in the overtime line to pay somebody to go to training, because they're not gonna go. Training is 42 hours. They get paid 42 hours a week. The training that they're attending.
That's correct, but we were using some of the grant money to offset.
I understand that, but. So. There's nothing in this overtime line that reflects what it actually costs somebody to go to training outside of the regular in-house training.
Which would fall in line with the report on the existing expenses,
Right, that they're over.
they're over $41,000.
Right.
So how does it work? So John Doe is offsite receiving training. If does John Doe get paid regular time during training?
If John Doe is on duty, if it's his day that he is on duty, supposed to be at Lincoln Fire, then he goes just for his regular pay. But we have to pay time and a half for someone to fill his shift while he's at,
And that's for the entire shift,
that's the entire shift.
and the shift is,
That's for now, once they come back. He goes.
Oh, yes, that's correct. Yeah, I see, if that's wrong, if the class is 8 hours and 24-hour shift, and they come back to the regular shift.
okay, and it's approximately 4 hours of travel time and to the class.
If he's in Prescott, yes, if he's in Bangor too.
So, when that person, if it's their on-duty day,
Yes,
they get paid straight time.
yes,
But the approximately 12 hours that somebody is covering for them in the firehouse, that person gets paid time and a half.
that's correct.
Not for the first 11 hours. Firefighters don't get overtime until 53 hours work. So if you work an overtime shift, I work an overtime shift this week, the first 11 hours is straight.
Right, but, so I guess what I'm getting at is, if your class at Presque Isle is more than 42 hours that week, you would have to get paid overtime after 53 hours.
Training is at the overtime. I'm talking about somebody covering my shift if I go to train.
I'm talking about the person who's at the training. There is no overtime line in here that says I have to pay you if your class lasts more than 42 hours in a week.
Well, I'm working my 42 hours a week with the. Every time my shifts are being covered, my rotates over. If we had an overtime line in here that cut out the overtime for the training, I think this might clear this up a little bit.
Right. Okay, so for the basic or the introductory EMT training, it's 1 semester. How many hours is that?
How many days per week do they go to training?
220? I think it's 220, I think that's.
220 hours. Thank you. And we have to add to that travel time.
Yes,
So that's roughly 4 hours per class. So the 220 hours is spread over how many days?
it would be 2 days a week,
8 hours a day?
no. Some of them are 3-hour days, but there's some Saturdays are 6-hour days or 8-hour days. They're all different.
The class we have 2 people in right now is Tuesday, Thursday. One of them is a full day, 7 or 8 o'clock to 1:66
Yeah.
or 5. And the other one is like a 4-hour block. It's their lab, so it's where they're practical. Hands-on training rather than classroom.
So if we say the average class time length is 4 hours, 5 hours, which is it's represented
Average, I would say 4 or 5 hours.
5 hours, 200, so that's 44 days.
Yeah.
So times 4 hours round trip between here and Presque Isle. 5 hours,
You're the one driving, Ken.
2 hours. 4 hours. Times 55 days, that's 220 hours. Drive time. Plus 220 hours. Class time.
He doesn't go 5 days, so they. You said it's only a 2-day course
Usually
Each
2 days a week,
each week,
sometimes.
And that-
They have to be in class 220 hours.
right,
And if the average class time is 5 hours,
right,
that's 44 days.
but you were talking about travel time, it's 4 times 5 days.
Four times 55 days, 55 sessions, classroom days.
Okay.
So that's 440 hours just for the basic EMT. And let's say that on average, we pay 1.25 times straight time per hour.
Right.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
Thank you. And that would be $27, $27.50 an hour times 1.25.
Pay's not going up until they've completed their basic certification. Right? So if they're a firefighter, that would then be, at least looking at this, 26.90.
And actually, I overlooked something. 220 hours of class time, we have to add to that 220 hours of substitute staff time, right? If the person's on duty.
Well, no, it wouldn't be that many hours because some of them would be. But yeah, you'd be paying time and a half either the employee to be at the class or somebody else to be at the station. As long as the person is over the 43 hours.
If the trainee is training during off-duty hours, so they get paid.
Yes.
So we have to have 220 hours of coverage time. So that's 660 hours in total. That's roughly $22,500 in compensation for training.
Just for one person.
Yes, sir. That's just plain compensation. And and actually that would, I have to do some more arithmetic. Our running rate this year is about $150,000 over budget. That's 6 trainees. was. Or 6 training. The 6 training sessions. So that, as somebody tried to point out, that made that. This difference between the actual running rate and the budget amount could indeed be
The cost. of
funds
training.
spent. Getting somebody, the compensation incurred getting somebody trained.
Chairman?
Yeah.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Outside of mandatory routine training, the regulars have to do every year. Is it known when you're putting this budget together, who's gonna come in and want the first step of EMS training, the advanced and then paramedic? Is that a known number before when you're starting the budget? Each and every year, otherwise, you're trying to nickel and dime this right down to the exact for every bit of training. Isn't that unknown
And it's a lot of time, it's like,
year to year?
especially if you get new employees.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
because
mean, you're trying to get it so you have 0 overtime. I understand that, but you're asking things that you don't know that are gonna be year after year after year.
I think what we're trying to point out, though, is that the budget doesn't include all of the factors. When you do send somebody to training, you've got his regular wages under 0001, but you have nothing under the overtime line to send that person to training.
But you won't know how many you'll send each year.
But
ahead
you
of
should,
time.
you should budget for at least one.
I'm not saying you shouldn't, but you guys are trying to get this right down to
We're
a
trying to
whole
get a-
number. Seems like.
Try to get in the ballpark.
Yeah,
we're
okay.
trying to get a ballpark number per trainee, and then we can get a ballpark number per year for the number of trainings. Multiply the two together.
If you know them every year at the beginning.
I think the challenge is making sure things are properly
Yeah.
categorized. So right now you have an overtime bucket that includes overtime responding to fires, etc. But it also includes the overtime to cover training, and those are funds that you could look for grants, because there's grants for training to offset. You have to be able to show the hours, etc. So tagging and categorizing them separately, I think, is a better way to help you make some ballpark estimates. When it's all in one bucket, it's very difficult to nail down why you're over and where you're. So that would just be a recommendation.
And if we're overlooking something. It appears that we are overlooking something which is a significant number in total.
If we approve what was submitted, we'd be too low,
Right, that's what we're saying.
and that's what one thing you have to
Once
realize.
we set the millage rate.
Yep.
That's all.
so we can, like I said, we can talk about that after the overtime if we think we need to. We should be increasing that, but right now we have 0010. So we have any other motion or a discussion, more discussion, or?
Would move that we give the manager and the department head some time to really come up with a solid plan and a proposal that we can review next time. Because right now I'm looking at numbers, we're having discussion about, like Byron said, things that we don't have any idea about. And I'm gonna have a hard time voting yes for anything without having a better understanding of what we're gonna do here.
To his point, the additions I made in the first 10 or 15 minutes of this session increased the fiscal year budget to about $2,550,000. That's approximately 25% of the proposed now. That's and that's spread over half a dozen different line items,
Or what, 120,000? But we came up with.
a little over 500,000 this
So we have a motion then? Have them come back? I represent, that's my motion to Second,
All right, motion made second. All those in favor? All those opposed? 11-1.
Well, I think we've just discussed is what the breakdown would be, what it costs to go to each one of these schools. How many people you think are gonna go, and that will give us a better figure of where all this money in professional development will be spent.
One of the things that the item is also about overtime split.
Right. And I think if and put that number into that overtime, it would make more sense to understand what it actually costs them to go there.
It also helps you see whether you've got a understaffing issue when it comes to responding to fires, for example. Because if the overruns were due to responding, then that tells you something different than the overrun that's attributed to training.
I would like to point out what Dave did, that initial thing of comparing all the runs. That's what you hire efficiency expert to come in to figure out how to get better. And he did that very well, and you should take advantage of that. And relook at your whole budget.
Thank you.
All right, item 0011, professional membership, department request, $6,400.
I guess the question that I would have, which of these memberships are required by local, state, or federal mandate?
None of them.
Something back for everything. So
What now? Is there reduction on course?
It's education. If people are involved with the Maine State Federation of Firefighters, they get a life insurance out of that, plus they get the education from them. Penobscot Fire Chiefs, the same thing, you get the education from the meetings that you go to. Chiefs Association, $125 is you go to that and you get to go to the training that's being offered once a month. The Maine EMS license is something we have to have, so that is a yes. The Play lab is so we can do blood work in the back of the ambulance.
main EMS license is mandated.
Yes, right, and so is the CLIA lab. The region dues and the medical director are, that's all. Yes, you have to have,
What about the Maine Ambulance
you
Association?
know, that's something we have to have.
What's that for? Is that just,
It's an association that passes on information, and they work on Maine EMS as far as keeping us in contact with what's going on.
Would you please go over that again? You started out by saying none of these memberships are required. And then.
Well, none of the memberships are required. Maine State Federation of Firefighters
22, correct?
Okay. So from 2020 through 2024. As Ralph said, the annual outlay is around $1,000. Now, 6,400.
So they also merged fire and EMS. EMS was its own separate department, and it's been merged.
The big expense that stands out is the medical director.
Why did we decide to merge them together? It seems like they should have been kept separate, so you can have an idea of what each is costing.
It's because they basically work in tandem, so it's one department essentially.
Because it's all one department. I mean, all my people go on both ambulance and the fire truck, so it's all one department.
So you're over this year, about 2,500, so you could be 6,400 left before.
That's 2,500 because after the budget was passed, we had to pay the medical director more money.
So last year's 2,500 total, or 2,500. That tells you, it's other than that tells you that it's probably 2,500, but no.
25 each.
So that's a significant. Something we need to do.
So Les, when you develop the contracts with the other departments, with the other towns, you take into account all of these costs associated with.
That's what we're gonna be doing tomorrow night. And I believe Mr. Morrison got that all figured out.
So I see you've spent 8218 this current year, but you're asking for 6,400. Is that gonna be accurate, or is it gonna be,
That's accurate.
so the 8218 is gonna be what you need of the year?
Yeah.
Most likely?
Yeah.
All right, so I make a motion for 0010 to make a motion for 8218 for what's been spent this year, which should be the department request.
You said 001.
0011, sorry. All right, motion made second. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Hands up again, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All those opposed? 2, all right.
May I go back briefly, please?
Yeah.
Mr. Lichtenberg suggested we send the staffers back to their calculator spreadsheet, so on and so forth, to revise some of the numbers, or just one.
I'm sorry, what?
10 or 15 minutes ago, you suggested that the fire department revise some or all of these numbers. Is that
The
correct?
training numbers.
Training.
Just the training numbers.
Training.
Thank you.
That had to do with the,
Thank you.
there does appear to be
Mr. Chair, what was the total that we just voted on?
$8,218. Right,
$6,400.
what's that?
$6,400.
No, I made a motion for $8,218 because that's what's been spent. That's what they spent this year, so that's what's
So
gonna
the
be.
motion was for 8. Okay, that's fine.
0012 advertising recruitment, $1,500.
We haven't spent any of that this year. None. So, but last year and before, we have, so. We have not spent any of that money. We have not advertised.
You don't expect to have to spend that in the next 2 months, do you?
Don't think so, no.
I think I heard you say that turnover is very low, that
That's
we
right.
haven't had a
That's right.
need.
Last year's board.
I'll make a motion to move that 1,500 into a reserve account for future purchases on that line item. Motion made seconded. Any discussion?
Zero.
Yeah, so that would be zero this year and they'd have a reserve account to spend for the next X amount of years. All those in favor? 12-0. 0024 uniforms, department request for 80 uniforms, fire EMS uniforms, 14,000. Officer uniforms, 1,200, turnout gear, 40,000. All member uniforms, 28,000 for a total of a department request for $83,200. I remember this from last year because you guys didn't have,
So last year, during the budget, we bought turnout gear. This year, we was agreeing we was gonna buy 10 more sets of turnout gear at $4,000 a piece. And now that our call members are getting involved, and we've got 2 or 3 more that interested in getting in on, but we do not have gear for them. So we're hoping to buy gear for them as well. That'd be 17 sets of turnout gear.
and the turnout gear, again, is specific for each individual person, not,
That's correct.
you're not supposed to take one piece and then,
They're measured, the salesman comes in
Yeah.
and measures them and put them in the gear.
so what's good for one person, like another person
And
shouldn't wear it.
it's very possible that they have a structure fire or a gas leak or had an oil leak and they ruin a set of gear.
So does this get everyone 2 sets?
So it's like give everybody a new set and an old set.
Old set.
Call member uniform,
Call uniforms would be for them, that's call uniforms is turnout gear and uniform. That gives them a pair of pants and shirt. So they go on ambulance runs, they look professional, and a pair of boots.
thank you.
Unless, turnout gear is not considered a capital item.
It can be considered whatever you want it to be considered. I mean, since I've been here, we've done it both ways. We've had it on capital items and we've had it in the budget.
What is the definition of a capital item then?
My understanding of a capital item is something is purchased, that lasts a period of time, a definite period of time.
How long does a set turn out to be?
Turnout gear could, I would say if you get 4 years out of the turnout gear, you're gonna be pretty lucky.
Maximum for FDA is 10 years. Entire. But as Chief said, if we get into a nasty situation, it could be any time in that time, end the period.
I mean, it gets closer.
Well, I would think it would be capital. But because of the value plus the number of years that it.
And that's fine, right? Capital item. We just need the gear. I'm not, you leave it in the budget.
So how much?
We bought it both ways.
20,000 per call. That line item per call. How many?
The uniforms, there is 7 at $4,000 a piece for the call and 10 at $4,000 a piece.
Oh, so that's just turnout gear for the call members.
That's turnout gear.
28,000.
That's right. And the fire and EMS gear above the uniforms would be for all of them.
So if you divide 14,000 by the number of
28 people.
20,
Well, it'd be 20 full-time, myself, and we got 4 call people now, but we got 3 more waiting to get on, so you're talking 18 people. I mean, 28 people.
so you divide 14,000 by 28, and that's how much it costs for a uniform.
It's, well, uniforms, they both have more than 1 uniform. And they have winter coats, summer coats.
I'm probably misheard you, but I want to be sure I'm clear.
Yeah.
Because I've heard 10 for the turnout gear that's listed here, and then you mentioned you have 17 folks, including the call members that you wanted to get turnout gear,
That's
just
correct.
$4,000 each. When I look at 40 plus 28, that's 68,000, that's 17 sets of gear at 4,000.
That's correct. Yeah.
So that call member uniforms is not, there are.
It should be call member gear. It should be gear, call member gear.
How's the, so you, if we get this 1 year old set, how's the old set of turnout gear holding up? Is that? Do you expect more years out of it or?
On the majority, it's good, but
Okay.
there are a few that's probably will end up with a set of this new gear.
So again, my question would be, next year, are you gonna need to,
I would say
And,
nowhere near the amount, but we're probably.
but
need a
you're gonna
couple sets
budget
if
for
we
some
always
next
did.
year to, because that's, and again, that's what I wanna see is
Yeah.
that. You're not using old gear that like before, where that shouldn't even be used.
Yeah.
Like you should have the proper gear to be
I
safe,
think we'll
so,
always be in for gear, but not if that's going.
okay.
I make a motion that we fund the 0024 line for the 15,200. And move the 68,000 into a capital.
I'll second that.
I'd like to discuss that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I've been in multiple corporations that play the expense with capital gain. One wants to look really good for the stock market, the other one wants to pay the least amount of taxes, which is tried to expense the most. What's the advantage for the town to move money back and forth?
Pretty much just where it lives.
My guess, based on the discussions that we've been having, is budget committee meets 1 year and they think it's an expense, and a new budget committee meets the next year and they think it should be capital because you can depreciate it over a number of years. I don't think it's
I
probably,
believe those decisions are made by the auditor.
Usually,
Where it is, whether it's capital or in the budget, it's not made by
I know this,
normal, if you will, it's made by the auditor. That's why all the leases got moved out of the capital, that was one of the findings of our audit.
because a lease is not a capital item because you've not purchased it. It's gap
Right.
principles. We're purchasing gear that has a finite
No.
lifespan.
So I think something our treasurer here.
Yeah.
I don't think. Could be wrong, but I don't think anybody here can speak to a gap principle, so.
Enough to be dangerous, but I'm not a
Yeah.
CPA.
So-
so-
no, every corporation has been changes that definition.
Right.
And, you know, I was bought out
But it.
5 times.
Change it. The way corporations do, and the auditors tell us where things have to be. And, you know, a couple of years ago, they wiped out a lot of the reserve accounts because we had money sitting on the book. And now we're getting recommendations for a lot of reserve account. I don't know how that's gonna fly when they look at that, but definitely on the capital versus non-capital, I don't think that's a decision that can be made here. It would be capital, something like.
Yeah, I think if you have a definition in your procedures that capital items have a life of certain number of years and are valued at X, then the auditor is gonna look at that and say, okay, well, this should be moved to the capital. I think it's a definition that the town has to have before the auditor will move things around on you. If you have a specific capital ordinance that says all items that have a lifespan of greater than 5 years and have a value of greater than 10,000, then it's gonna be in a capital item.
So it's actually definition per gap. Capital item or capital asset is tangible or intangible. So tangible, you can touch it, with a useful life exceeding 1 year, used in operations and not intended for sale in the ordinary course of business. So they're good for longer than 1 year. They're a tangible item. And I'm not going to presuppose an auditor, but I do think we've got a lot of stuff that needs a very clear definition that is, again, consistent across all of the financial, not we're going to put it here this year and somebody else will come along.
In the end, I mean, this is just our recommendation to the council. The council can work with the auditors, and if it's not supposed to be a capital, they can move it back to regular budget, so.
I agree with what Mary said about getting some things cleared up, but we did this and it was 2 years ago and unsolicited advice from our financial people told us to do that. And maybe it's because it wasn't clear. I don't recall the reasonings for it. I'm not a cat, he does either, but I do agree we do need to clean some of this, the definitions.
For clarity. People we don't know, or we can't recall, recommended that we leave the uniforms on the firehouse budget.
I don't specifically remember that exactly, but I would have to assume so because they're still there.
Okay, but I prefer it that way because it directly aligns those outlays with the firehouse.
Plus it's something that can get damaged quite easily. So
Yes.
That's my concern. You can't really say it's gonna last a certain amount of life. It depends on the use. Yeah,
Ruin your gear, the first fire goes.
exactly. That's why I really have a hard time throwing that in capital.
Yeah, that's certainly a number of appreciable years for thousands of items that shipped and like you would be in there. So even if,
Yep.
you know, Jake's saying 4 years, someone else said it could last effectively up to 10. But they would probably use the most prevalent age.
Which is what the IRS says.
They said 4 years.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know what they say, but they're the ones we always go to. But it's weird because the town doesn't really get taxed. You know, for the IRS and the state.
No, but I think.
Yeah.
Expect that
Yeah.
climate. Documented, be consistent in how you apply it. And that way you can have a productive discussion with your auditor about why they think it's different, to adjust your rule for that, so that you're not. Right.
Budget committee's primary function is to give an opinion about whether that or not the numbers are appropriate. That's our function, correct?
Correct.
So it's outside our purview about where those numbers appear in the budget, as long as the total town budget has appropriate numbers.
I think the town has had maintained a practice of keeping things in capital that are occasional large purchases, so that the operating budget line items stay rational. If the operating budgets are used for capital expenses as well as normal, year to year expenses, then it gets very hard to know how to budget year to year.
All right, so we have a motion and second on the table. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the motion?
I move that we fund this line item 0024 for 15,200. And then fund the 68,000 in a capital line item, call it turnout bill.
Now you can open your vote.
All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All those opposed? All right, 93.
Voted against yourself.
It was 93.
You said no.
93. It's 93 for against. 0027 consumable supplies, general supplies, $43,000, department request, $43,000.
At this time, we have $17,000 we have not spent, but we can say we have 2 or 3 months left. And this is ambulance supplies, oxygen for the ambulance, any loose equipment for the ambulance. Anything that would be used that's throwaway. And that's all throwaway item, but most of them are throwaway items.
For medical supplies, oxygen.
Drugs, we're gonna need some of it. I'm not sure we're gonna need all of it, but we're gonna need some of it. So we got 2 more months, 3 more months. May and June, so we got 2 more months.
So you said you had roughly $17,000
Right,
left.
the last turnout we had. In the end of April, I got $17,000. I got. Yes.
What printout I have says you 19,500. July to April.
Mine's a 17,673.
Mine says consumer supplies at $17,673, but
You might have different, maybe an earlier version.
Yeah, this is what.
I'm looking at this.
Yeah, this is,
July to
this,
April.
this is where it says.
Okay, thank you.
So I'd make the motion to accept the department request with the caveat that the council take a look at this line item, but the expense closer to the actual vote, to see what's left in that account to then make an adjustment if needed. So I'd make a motion for the 43,000.
I second.
Motion made, seconded. Any other discussion? The only reason I made that motion is because we don't know what they're gonna spend, and if they have a lot of ambulance calls, that line item could drop. That expense, what's left in the thing could drop pretty quickly. But maybe not, so, like I said, it's kind of hard to pick a number without knowing what it's actually gonna be.
Subject to fluctuation. That's how many times you get called and what you get called for, so. Yeah.
Is the budget is basically saying we're gonna spend almost 3,600 a month. And you've been underrunning at about 122. Who knows, right?
Any other discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? Right. 11-1.
okay, equipment maintenance, this is what we have is equipment maintenance and we have vehicle maintenance. Right, equipment maintenance right now shows that I have $35,000 left in there. I don't, because what happened was, my vehicle maintenance way off, and you can see that when you get to it.
Yeah,
So
I see that.
it has not been somewhere in a probably put in, but I'm sure my fault. So if you look at that, so it shows that we've only got $34,997 left in this account. And it's not true, because we have bought batteries, we've had our generator and our Jaws Life repaired. And boat motor repaired, so a lot of that we've had ladder testing done on equipment maintenance. So that money needs to be moved down to vehicle maintenance, which I am $44,000 over. So
I guess my question is $7,100 enough? You feel that's gonna be enough for this coming year?
on the equipment maintenance,
Yeah,
yes.
because it showed, I mean, it looks like you only spent 7,300, so. If you feel like that's.
You know, because equipment maintenance, why that is a lot of it. That is funny.
Okay. I make a motion for the department request of $7,100. All right, second discussion? Anyone have anything else? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? 12-0. Item 0031, equipment purchase, department request $56,900.
As you can see, there is a skid for a new UTV in the back, so that's so we can have a water tank, plus we can have a person where we can put a victim for EMS. And that's a hand lights, hand tube, there's 2,000 feet of fire hose, 1.75 inches, 1,000 feet of 2.5. Our breathing apparatus bottles are going to be expired. We need 10 new bottles. They can't be tested anymore, that old. Stretcher batteries that we used to pay $454 for COVID right now is $900 a piece. They double in price. Light pack batteries have doubled in price. And we need 4 of those. I've got 10 sets of wildland gear also included in this, and 3 nozzles.
So the skid for the UTV, isn't that because you got rid of the mini pumper or getting rid of it
We
or
got rid of the mini pump.
and got rid of the mini
Got rid of
pumper? And basically, this was, you're doing this so you,
So
You
we
got rid of
didn't
mini
get
pumper,
really
so
to
you're
get
doing this.
back in the back lakes and get victims from boat accidents, snowmobile accidents, or whatever it may be. And this would put us a skid on the back, but comfort of the patient.
Yep.
Right now, it's a metal rack that's not very.
did you say it was though to do it for a pump too?
Oh, yeah, what we'll do is we'll just put a tank.
Tank.
Put a plastic tank on it with a pump.
Okay.
Which we
Is
have
it
to pump.
Skid essentially a trailer?
Excuse me?
Is skid essentially a trailer?
Slides in the back.
No, slides in the back.
It's basically split half of it's for wildland firefighting, so forest woods, whatever. And the other half is split with a patient care seat, a spot for a patient. That I can pull on, it depends on what you buy, there's different variations obviously, but that is a dual purpose vehicle that we purchased with the money in the sale of the new pumper, so UTV itself was basically a freight, if you will. Took the money from the new pumper, bought a stock UTV that is not equipped with anything to go.
So occasionally one will see on the road an SUV or a pickup truck that has a platform hung from the trailer hitch is it something along those lines?
I would say it's similar, so it slides into the bed and then it's mounted in and you can get different size tanks for it, or obviously what we want to be for the purpose, so we can go rescue someone on a ATV trail and that, or use it if we have a busy fire season this summer, fighting wildland fire, obviously it goes off-road a lot better than a fire engine does. So something that we can dual purpose for fire, that's slides in the back. In the wintertime, we can drain the water out of it and still use it with the patient care scenarios and stuff like that.
Looking at your budget last year, it looks like we spent your budget was 52,300, you spent 83,191. And then it looks like you've got some additional funds coming in at 38,739. You know if that is enough to stay over the
No, not to say of anything. I believe that it was. Before, we had to move some stuff over because it was placed in the wrong place in the wrong line item, and I think it was reimbursed. I think that was taken from another one.
The underlying question is, you budgeted 52,000 last year, you spent 83. What did you buy that you didn't anticipate?
I think that was from the grant, no, we bought the Jaws of Life. The Jaws of Life was purchased out of there. Yeah, that was the Jaws of Life. $40,000 Jaws of Life.
So are you saying the 38,000 grant that came to purchase the Jaws of Life?
No.
They took money from the wrong account, so they took money
Yeah.
out of this account and then had to, or basically money went out from the wrong account and had to be put back in something.
But I will double check that.
Mr. Chairman. Yep. The maintenance account was severely overspent because there was a series of mechanical failures at the firehouse that we didn't budget for. And one of those was a radiator failure, $6,000 just for the radiator, $6,000 to put it in. What else? You had an inverter failure. It seemed like every week there was a breakdown, significant cost breakdown at the firehouse.
The actual building itself, you mean?
So the equipment,
Oh,
the vehicle, the vehicles.
I'm seeing some of this is replacing worn out gear, so for example, hoses or those new additions.
That's just, we lose hoses, at fires, we lose, when we do our annual hose test. We have hoses that blow, just plain run out aids though.
It's the same with axes.
Same with, all the pieces of equipment, that's correct.
Wes, are you able to apply for like safety grants from MMA to get some of these things like the,
We,
bottles?
we do, we apply for forestry grants and we apply for all kinds of grants. And usually if we get a grant, we go above and beyond, so we're preparing for, so we don't have to go ask for it again. So
That's right. Like for every 10 grants you apply.
Oh. the big grants. We usually don't qualify, but the small grants, we do okay with EMS and fire, huge fire grants. But the big ones, they raise up because you have such a surplus. And the money that you got put away for the rainy day fund. When we, yes,
First thing they look at in a grant process for like, say,
Okay.
staffing or trucks is the financial need. And you break that down at the town level, there's a lot of places across the country that have a lot less in their rainy day funds or whatever we're calling it. I wrote a grant a couple of years ago now, and they got kicked back in the first round of process because I may have the numbers off, obviously, it's been years, but I think it was like $8 million they saw on one of the lines, and that was more than what we were asking for in the grant. So
Is it affecting you getting grants though, or audits so far out? Is that?
I don't know the answer to that either. I haven't had that. I haven't had, but come back on paperwork,
All right, I'll make a motion for the department request of $56,900. Motion made, seconded, discussion? Anyone got anything? No. Questions? All those in favor? All those opposed? 11-1. Right, 0040 vehicle fuel, diesel 10,168, gasoline 6,810, for a department request of 16,978.
Price is not gonna work.
Just
Oh, that's what.
We'd like on this line to wait right until the budget takes effect like we have with other departments. So we can get the most up-to-date fuel price. Because this fuel price is obviously gonna change.
There's no reason why the committee can't vote on gallons only, knowing that the price could change, right?
Good. That's what it wants to do. Are you saying, based on it being overspent, that we're probably don't have that, what you've actually used per gallons up till now?
We do, we have all the slips.
You don't have that here tonight, though, right?
when the overage is due to price increases or whether it's because they underestimate how much over.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to see.
Have that back to training.
That's what everyone wants. Someone wants to make a motion. Yeah.
I'd actually like to make a motion that plays on Ralph's suggestion that, the fire department provide the budget committee and town council gallons actually used during the current fiscal year and prior fiscal year.
Made seconded, discussion? All those in favor? 12-0. Right, 0041 vehicle maintenance. Department request $40,300. I'm assuming these might not be completely accurate because we don't have the mini pumper anymore.
No, if we don't have, that was at one point deleted off there, but it's for the pickup. Replaced for the pickup, but. If you. Back a few months ago. When we started. Going over on our maintenance budget, I was asked to hold off on the expenses of the public safety bill, and when I get to that. And I have money in the public safety bill and to offset some of the costs of vehicle maintenance. We did not do some of the maintenance on the building, so we had the money. To offset this budget.
Wasn't the maintenance on the building pretty necessary? So we're basically
that's
just moving the issue from.
So is the UTV,
Oh, David's not yet. David.
So the mini pumper should be struck from this list.
This mini pumper should not be there.
But we need to
Should
have-
we add to
The pickup truck's on the bottom.
should we add the UTV to this equipment list, the vehicle list?
Yeah.
Finally, under condition, every piece of equipment is listed as good. But that's at odds with the apparatus update document and with recent claims.
I guess it's kind of how you look at it. If it's good, it's operational. Right now, it's good. It passes inspection. It goes down the road, it starts, it runs, we put a lot of money into them, to keep them going. But compared to other apparatus, it's in their. Got age, they got miles, they got years, they got everything on them that telling us that any day now. They could not be good anymore.
So just for everyone, so if we can go line by line, like you tell us like what piece of like, so the Freightliner, is that actually good or is that something that's, you know,
Freightliner is the oldest piece, correct?
soon to be replaced, like gonna have to be replaced soon?
Years old.
He's,
Yeah, they used to put the year of the item on.
I have the list.
yeah, we have a,
It's 22 years old. The Freightliner is 22 years old. The issues with that truck are, we've been told for years that the frame rails are on the way out. It has leaking discharges and waterways. There's a noticeable bend to the truck, which is probably related to the frame rails. But as Chief said, it runs, it drives, it keeps on going.
Is that one of the vehicles that you described as an imminent danger of
Yes, sir.
failure?
That is one of the two.
What's the replacement cost on that? Like if new,
For an engine, if we were to place an engine for an engine, you're talking either side of $1 million.
so a
We've had
million, so
discussions about potentially replacing the ladder and an engine with what's called a quint. It's a ladder truck with a pump and a little bit of water. Obviously, it would reduce the fleet by one, which is less vehicle maintenance in theory, but the drawback to that is if the pump on the quint breaks, you're also out of an aerial, and if the aerial breaks, you're also out of pump. So there's give and take with every scenario.
and because what the council's done before is purchased decent but used equipment. Again, I don't know if this was a piece of equipment, but we purchased up 25 years old.
The Freightliner was a demo truck, so it had a bunch of miles on it, but it was essentially a truck when we bought it.
Exactly, because it was a couple of years ago. I don't know, like.
So we did
5
buy
or
a
6.
used, or I guess it's more closer to a refurbished pumper tanker a few years ago because it was offset by at the neighborhood of 300,000 to buy it. So
Right.
it's $300,000 cheaper. So the truck that we bought was previously a tower ladder in Clearwater, Florida that had aerial issues. A apparatus broker bought that truck, strip the body off of it, put a brand new pump and tank on it. So we now have a truck with a lot of hours, a lot of miles, put a brand new pump and a body on it. So
Which one is that on?
that would be I don't know how you have it listed on there.
GMC Ferrera.
The
Yes.
GMC Pereira is long gone.
Yeah. That would have been the one that he's talking about.
That is the one. So that would be
Yeah.
532 if you've all reviewed
532.
the
That's
apparatus.
still on too, that's.
Yeah, we no longer have a Ferrera. The Ferrera was replaced by the HM. Actually. No, the Ferrera would be the one we're speaking of. So the tanker that we bought, I think that was, yeah.
So that one's gone, but that was the one we, yeah.
Yes, so that is, if you've looked at the apparatus, the state of the apparatus document. That is the wild card of the fleet. I mean. Someday, who knows when, we may blow a motor in that and we have to be left with a few-year-old. Pump and body that we could re-chassis or cut our losses and move on.
Which is the wild card? Lee?
It'd be again, I don't have it in front of me, the Pierce. No, that's the Pierce ladder. What are you looking? So the GMC Ferrera was replaced by a Pierce Deep South. In the document that I provided you guys last week, it would be engine 532. Label it as an engine because it's got a big pump on it. Sorry, the terminology is weird.
Just, is it worth it to re-chassis it like that? Is that something that's, I mean,
Maybe it depends on when it blows up. It wouldn't really be worth getting quotes to re-chassis it now. It's running fine, so we could look at quotes,
I mean, cause my only thought is like, you don't wanna have to
wanna
worry
wait
about
till it
that
blows
when
up.
you're on the way to a fire and then
It's
that
happened.
that
The
was,
truck has failed on the way to the fire twice.
so it's not long, like. Could, I mean, again, it could last another 10 years, it could last 6 months, so.
It is a wild card. And that is a truck that rolls to just about everything. It's a pumper tanker. It's got big water and a big pump. It's pivotal in our, especially outside the hydrant district. It's the truck that we lean on. It's either supplying our main engine or trucking water back and forth from a hydrant or a lake or a pond or whatever.
So the Pierce ladder, engine number 532, is one that is in imminent danger.
Well, 535 is a Pierce ladder, yes. That truck was purchased from Cambridge, Mass. It's a 2002. It was very tired when we got it, and I believe it was the town manager at the time said that was a 4-year, 5-year Band-Aid truck, and we would pursue avenues to replace it. We are now on year,
Like 6.
I think it is 6. It's just 2021 when that blew up. So we're going into year 6 of the Band-Aid.
So the Pierce ladder's correct number is 535.
Correct.
And it is one of the vehicles that is in imminent danger.
That truck is great, but there's no hiding the age on it. It's rotting out. The auto lube system for the aerial itself is not good. And it's a 2002. Those parts are hard to come by. It is possible that we fly that aerial at a call or a training or a daily truck check and it doesn't come back.
Yeah, good.
All of these trucks that you have. I know in the private sector, a lot of trucking outfits have gone out and parts very hard to get. Are these all still brands that are in production or are they obsolete?
We lost the radiator. In one of the trucks, and the radio was like $6,600 and $4,000 later because I just couldn't find them.
That was this year? You did that?
That was this year.
So we have an agent fleet that's gonna start costing, anytime anything goes wrong, it's gonna cost pretty big money to fix. And just, I mean, not that I am advocating 100% new for everything, but if you, all 3 of these things replaced them all new, like this year, let's say this year, just for discussion. What would be the amount, rough, I mean, ballpark, doesn't have to be exact, but.
That's 6 to 8 million.
So if we say 8, just be high, but then. What's the lifetime on those? 30 years, 20 to 30 years?
So, yeah, they say a fire truck's usually good to. Good up to 20 years, so it all depends on the run volume, like obviously, New York City is gonna replace a truck every year, and we're gonna get closer to 20 out of our trucks. Just for example, off the top of my head, there is a breakdown of, actually, it's the city of Saco or Scarborough, I can't remember, I'm skimming over my duck in Scarborough. They had a breakdown of, what it was costing them in increased, maintenance costs, the older the vehicle got. So with a 20-plus-year-old vehicle, their repairs were up over $15,000 from the previous year. So with a new vehicle, you obviously get an extensive warranty that's typically only good for a year. I mean, it's only a year, but that's a whole year's worth of maintenance. If anything major goes wrong, you have it fixed. Essentially.
And do they do leases on fire equipment?
I have not looked into a lease.
They do leases on fire.
And again, I don't know how well it would work in fire. I know that's why we did it with Public Works, was because Public Works buying the equipment only worked if there were no big expenses, and we always had big expenses after year 6. And so it did not make sense to keep purchasing and just use the lease for the work, like for all the work being like, you know, obviously you have to do some maintenance, but your maintenance drops incredibly. So
The data clearly showed the maintenance costs sharply rising after year 6, really after year 5. You track it on years or hours? Well, we track it on years of possessed, but the engines do have hour.
As far as like when we were buying that pumper tanker a few years ago, you really do take hours into consideration a lot more than miles, because those trucks can sit and idle for 4 to 10 hours of a fire. We don't know. So the hours running is what we really take into consideration. That truck that we ended up buying had high miles and high hours. So again, it was a significant savings to buy a new used truck. Half of it's new, half of it's used, but at the tail end of that, it does not project well.
Say, what's the lead time for purchase? Or even with a new truck?
So we have reached out, just to get a ballpark and see what some options are and get ballpark pricing. Some manufacturers have what they call stock units, similar to what the Freightliner was. You can get it, and you can get it within, I believe it's 18 months. But you can make very little modifications to them to meet your needs. If we were to build from the tires off a brand new fire truck of basically any kind, you're talking a 3 to 5 year wait.
How about refurbishing?
Refurbishing, it depends on what you're trying to do to it. The ladder we have did have a partial refurb the year after we purchased it, just to fix up some rust rot on the compartments and the aerial itself. And the bucket, it's a tower ladder, so it has a bucket on the end. So that if we go to 20 Main Street and if we need rescues, we can point and shoot, and you knock and step in the bucket and you can set down on the ground rather than have to climb a 95-foot ladder with that.
Fortuitously, I did try to check on used vehicle availability. Wanted an objective response to this. For the Freightliner, number 533. 2 or 3, it's actually 2 sellers of used fire trucks. Gave prices of around $350,000 for vehicles with 15,000 miles on them or less. Is that
You won't get that up by 33.
You mean,
can you replace it for $350,000
$350,000, you could get,
with a used vehicle?
I think that would be, you could get probably a 10-year-old vehicle with that, but
Decent equipment.
sure. What we found, especially with pumps, it all depends on where they come from, and a lot of times you're buying someone else's problem. There's typically a reason why they're getting rid of it. Which means more upfront, you know, when we buy a vehicle, it has to be pump tested, it has to go through through all the hoops of testing, that's the law. And we're not gonna buy something that's not tested, so.
And the Pierce ladder, a used vehicle with less than 25,000 miles is about $1 million. That's gonna be a decent vehicle, or is that gonna be more headaches than it's worth?
I think it's a matter of opinion. It's gonna be a few years old, whereas we can spend 1.8 to 2 million to get something brand new.
What would pay for that?
You get it. Yeah, I don't remember the exact number. We did look at, I think it was 2 or 3 ladder trucks, and not only was that one the closest, but it was, as far as a 20-year-old truck goes, it was in very good shape, and we got, I think,
30, I think it's like 25, 30,000 dollars.
But he,
well below
22
market.
years.
but if we went new, let's say we went new, you got 3 to 5 year lead time to get it. So in that meantime, you could be looking at buying another Band-Aid one, because if one of these dies, you're gonna have to replace it.
If we went down the avenue that Mr. Moisty mentioned, we did that with the last engine we bought. We had to buy a Band-Aid truck to get us through the production time of the new one. And we ended up putting that truck out to bid, and it was older than the truck it was replacing. So, we didn't get a ton for it. But that is an avenue we could pursue, is to get a Band-Aid, so to speak, something that would have more resale value for us to get through. Or we could keep these budget lines the same as they are and hope they know.
I mean, I'm in favor of used if you can get something that's decent used. Something that's gonna get you at least to, I would hope 5 to 10 years, like. Again, everything's hard, you can't say for certain, because they wouldn't be selling it if it was working perfectly, unless they're done, they're no longer doing like fire service, like. That'd be the only time you probably get a deal like that, but otherwise, yeah, there's a reason why someone's getting rid of something, it's some type of problem, so. But, yeah, I mean, we have such old
But we
equipment
definitely
that
need
needs to be
to
replaced,
make this
so,
money for right now.
I mean, we have to do
Yeah.
something, I
Yeah.
mean, whether it's new or used, something
In the future, it'd be great to get a 10 or 15-year replacement plan for each vehicle. That's because the stats and data show that the resale value on those pieces of equipment, we get a ton back on the back end. And we would not be in this mess of 20 to 25-year-old vehicles if we started rotation similar.
well, it's supposed to be. Like whatever the amount is, so if, truck was $1 million. Over 10 years, we were going to put $100,000 away for that truck, 100 for the other truck, or 50,000 or whatever.
Another
But
option.
then that's the first thing that gets cut by the council is capital budget. So
Another obstacle we have is the manufacturers do like quarterly price increases now too, so. I mean, we have the funds and we can't pull the trigger until June or July 1st, let's say. There could be a price increase between, what I mean, it moves so fast on the other end with. Everything's just going.
What are you saying?
But-
What are you saying that there used to be quite a lot of manufacturers and they're now down to 1 or 2, and this consolidation is what's driving the price increases. You don't have options.
And that's why it's taking so long to get a truck.
Just to note, the last truck that we bought brand new was the HME. And that was, I believe, 2017. We ordered it, we received it in 2018. When we initially brought that proposal forward, I'm not sure if it's the council or the town manager. Something happened, they wanted us to wait. We waited a year, and the price went up $40,000. And the original quote was approved, and we ended up having to cut a significant amount of equipment out of that truck that we really needed. And so we didn't get what we wanted out of it because we waited, and the price went up an incredible amount. So just something else to keep in mind.
You can remember, at one time, wasn't there supposed to have been money from the tip put towards the fire, but I don't think it went back.
it's called,
That money was cut.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the windmills?
Yeah,
Yeah, there was, going off really foggy memory here, it was a long time ago. I believe it was $200,000 fire engines were originally part of that. And that was removed along with some other items that were in the fire department. And the rationale that was given was that the windmills would not be utilizing the fire department, because if they catch on fire, they catch on fire. It doesn't get lit.
I don't know that. Is fire department eligible for TIF money? That's strictly economic
We
development.
bought a town wheeler once, had to put a sign on the tailgates, you mentioned too.
We did have a position, one of our full-time positions, years and years ago was paid for by TIF money from the mill.
You can get it approved on an exception basis, but you have to have the approval before you can spend it on anything that's regular.
Does the town continue to have a reserve fund that's funded to accrue money for these kind of expense for fire department?
We put money in their capital reserve.
Any idea how much is in there now? I mean, we're talking about a lot of money. I would hope that we've got some, savings ready to deploy.
I don't think there's very much that says, George said it's per se, it's
If
paid every year.
I tell you,
If
I
there's
was
$100,000 in it, I'd be shocked.
No, there's nothing.
Cause like I said, that's the,
There's no money in reserve.
okay, yeah. Say, cause that's the first thing that gets cut,
Rather issue
lower
bonds,
taxes.
pay interest rather than save up and.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Les, we have 2 ambulances that are in this vehicle maintenance, then you have one that's a lease that's in the capital, or wherever that we.
Let's say that again?
We have 2 ambulances that we have to maintain because we own them,
Yes.
and then we have one that's gonna be leased.
Well, we're purchasing it. They call it a lease, but we're really paying payments every,
It's at least to
Yeah.
own.
at least to own, that's right.
Where was that again in the budget?
That is not because ambulance one of the ambulance is just setting. So we got the money. We're all set with just 2, with 2 ambulance, because one of them is in the back and we won't be spending hardly any money on maintenance on that.
Okay, but you
Yeah.
do have 3, but you only
That's
are
right.
budgeting for maintenance.
correct.
on 2.
That's correct.
So
One is,
one of the ambulances you're putting to pasture.
that's right. It's not put to pasture, but it's not used. It's only used when the other ones are broke down or when we have another problem. So there'd be enough maintenance and the number 1, which is brand new, because that's gonna be under warranty. So
That's the lease purchase one.
that's all right, that's correct. So I figured that we will not use any of the money there to keep the budget low. I only budget for one for
Whose
maintenance.
responsibility will it be to maintain that leased truck?
Excuse me?
Where does responsibility lie in maintenance of the leased ambulance?
But it'll be just oil changes.
Who's
We
responsible?
we do.
So one of the ambulances is a current 2026,
2 of them are 26.
both
No.
of them,
No, one's a 26 and the other one's 21.
21.
Silly question, because I know the equipment on the truck is different on maintenance, but that oil changes and regular maintenance, don't we have a mechanic and stuff? Is that something that they're able to handle and I just,
The mechanic that's assigned to Public Works Department, I tell all the departments, make Public Works your first call. And if he's able to fit it into a schedule, he'll do so. And if not, then they take it to Thornton Brothers or wherever else changes will. He's able to fit it in probably 50% of the time.
I was gonna
So he would be able to maintain your pickup truck,
And the
And the
oil
ambulances.
changes,
not these larger trucks.
not the large trucks. He can, if he changes our oil once a year on the fire trucks and does the regular maintenance, but anything that's major, we take it elsewhere. So he services them,
So
and
this is just above and beyond what Public Works can do.
that's correct, except we pay for the parts of Public Works, so if their filters, the oil, all of that, I come over.
And I'm assuming for the mechanic, it's easier for him to do it in the summer than in the winter, because in the winter, he's probably.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Ambulance 1 is the new ambulance.
That's correct.
And if I heard correctly, you said the only expected maintenance is oil changes around the minor.
That's right.
Why have we budgeted 4,200?
Because with that ambulance 3, which I just said, ambulance 3 was part of that budget. I should have put ambulance 1, ambulance 2, but if I. Figure ambulance 1 is gonna be just basic oil changes, but ambulance 2 and ambulance 3 will take up all the maintenance. There won't be any transmissions or tires or anything in the first year.
I jumped ahead to page 56, 0307, number 3, you haven't got anything in there.
Yeah, we just talked about that at the beginning.
At the very beginning, we discussed that and at least as a temporary measure,
What,
the consensus was that, on this page, line item 0307, under fiscal year 2027 will be 64,200.
So that's the leads. Leads purchase.
that's correct.
Well, there's an ambulance
Yeah, we
lease
just
capital,
that, so that should-
$72,000.
Not for this year.
This isn't.
Yeah.
That's in-
That was last year.
I mean, I've taken notes.
Okay, so we get that, we'll change that.
When we get there, you have to vote on it.
So I don't know about anybody else, and maybe I'm just slow, but when I look at the vehicle maintenance list. I've taken a lot of notes, but it's not reflective of the equipment that you actually have. And so it's in this book, it's the Freightliner, the HME, the GMC Ferrera, which is now the Pierce Deep South. We don't have the mini pumper, it's now the UTV.
I think when it was entered the computer for some reason. Cause there was all ready to be entered the computer and I don't know what happened. It didn't change or what happened. They were all, the new ones are all punched in.
So next year you'll have an updated list.
Next time, yeah,
So is the actual amounts
the
that's
same, yeah.
budgeted, so for the mini pumper, the 3,500, where that's gonna be likely the UTV, are you expecting 3,500 for maintenance, or would that be much less?
That should be much less.
What would you,
I'd say 1,500.
1,500, so there's 2,000, oh,
Had the discussion about the ambulance 1, ambulance 2, and ambulance 3. There's not 3 ambulances on this list, but one of them's new. So that should be also a lower budget line.
well, ambulance 1 would be 0, ambulance 2 and 3 would be 4,200 each, what he just said.
We'll change, we will change.
Yeah, make a
Yeah.
motion. I moved.
But look, one second, just for you, Mike, other question would be. Where you overspent on, or where you spent so much on vehicle maintenance, do you expect that this is actually gonna be? In the ballpark of what you think
Yeah.
the maintenance is?
Yeah.
So, okay,
I move that we strike from the department request $4,500 that aligns with the Ferrara. $3,500 that aligns with the mini pumper. And that we reduce the total to $32,300.
So you're reducing it by 4,500 and 2,000, a total of 6,500.
No, total of 8,000, reduction to total of $8,000. The GMC Ferrara was removed from the fleet some time ago, ditto the mini pumper. So
wasn't the Ferrari replaced with something though?
Yeah. Here's
Here,
the-
Steve,
Yeah,
we have $14,000 allocated to that in the department.
no, that's the latter, the PS Deep South is what the pump for the,
Pierce Deep South is a different piece.
So it's not on this list.
Correct.
correct,
Well, vehicle 532.
yeah,
That's what it is on.
532 is there, but yeah,
The word GMC Ferrara needs to be replaced with the word Pierce Deep South.
Yeah,
So that's the amount that George mentioned should be reduced by 2,000, we only have 1,500 in that line for UTV. So is that correct, George?
correct.
So the Pierce Deep South is in good condition or some other condition.
That was the one that was,
That was the wild.
So the Pierce ladder is in good shape.
No, it's in imminent danger of
So
that.
we have 3 vehicles that are in imminent danger or 2 vehicles.
Two that are in danger of failure and one that is a wildcat who's half new and half. It is worth noting as well that we use UTV budget line to maintain the boat as well. So it has to be registered and it has like once a year we work for.
So that should be UTV boat motor.
Yes.
We will change that all pretty.
We could also have them come back with this list, just like the other one.
Asking
Yeah.
George.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there
That's what
going,
we will do.
it's like trying to keep it straight is,
We have a motion on the table, so
Yep.
A revised motion is my motion. We remove the $3,500 for maintenance associated with the mini pumper, which was engine 537. And we reduce the total to $36,800.
not till we don't get a second. All right, motion dies for lack of second.
I think that one missed the UTV and 1500.
So-
yeah, I think, while I agree with you that something newer doesn't require that amount of maintenance. When I hear that we've got 2 vehicles that are on their last legs and past their last legs, honestly, and one that's a wildcat, I'm looking at the amount of maintenance for them, and then I hear it was a $6,000 radiator. I'm like, when I look at the sum total, taking out that amount of money is just asking for it to be overspent on one of the others, given how unreliable the numbers are. So,
I'm gonna make a motion for 38,300 by removing 1,500 from what was the mini pumper line, the UTV, to make sure we have enough in for the UTV and for the boat. In there. Wait, hold on, let me, I think I did my math wrong.
now,
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, it should be different, sorry.
by line item instead of by total. Just like asking if there's a reason that we need to get that.
Done this way for 30 years.
It's because everyone wants to see what the actual line item is, so. Because the question the council asks is, if it's 40,000, they go, well, what's dictated to what?
Yep.
So,
How did you get there?
I mean, build up in rationale, it should be like, you've got X number of vehicles and these these number of vehicles will then take roughly this, and therefore it should be 40,300, but.
so. Motion for 38,800, and that lowers the UTV line to 2,000. And keeping everything else the same, so that's my motion, 38,800. And I would like to see all the information updated to the correct. Things. The motion second, any other discussion? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? No? All right, 12-0.
I just had a comment. nothing to
Yeah.
say that, but, For future use, last meeting we talked about sometimes the ambulance goes out and you've got a person you have to pick up the door. And so instead of the 2, you gotta have 4 doors. How did the other 2 get to the scene?
Fire truck. That way, if there's a call that comes in, while they're out, they can turn around and go to the fire.
So we're using $1 million fire truck to get 2 guys to help pick a guy up.
That's good.
Is there any other way of doing it?
Well, if you wanna call 2 more people in. So we can have somebody take an ambulance and go over, but that's if the fire truck is over there, then if we have another fire call, they can turn around and leave.
Can you, how many people can ride in the ambulance?
You can have 6 probably riding the ambulance. I mean, you get 2 in the front, 4 in the back.
Do they
But
make,
then all your people are tied up and there's no one back to the station to take the fire truck if it's needed.
a crew cab ambulance?
Yes, they do.
Is that something we've talked about doing in the past to keep a $1 million fire truck from going to pick up a guy off the kitchen floor?
No, because we've always got the second ambulance that we can send people in, but it's just does not work out well.
The point I'm trying to make is, we've got a lot of hours on these trucks. We're talking about replacing them for $8 million. Should we rethink how we get extra people to a scene? That has to be 2 guys have to get there to help pick up a guy up.
I think the only way you can do it is have 6 people on staff 24 hours, because then you would have 2, if 4 people go to a ambulance call, you have 2 at the station ready to go for any.
And then you've got 4 people tied up, you send all 4 in one vehicle to the scene. You got 4 people tied up that can't leave because the ambulance needs to stay at the scene.
Does anybody make a piece of equipment, chief, that you could put in on the ambulance, or what this is, that would make sense?
Well, they have hydraulic stretchers, the self-loading stretchers. That works really good, but
We're just wondering if that was simple.
The trouble is, you get into a house and the person's on the bathroom floor, the kitchen floor.
Yeah. Look around the toilet. You're back, you're getting laid off.
Okay, item 0042 engine pump inspection, department request $8,400.
real quick, we can drop 2,100 off that because the mini pumper no longer is there with us, and that was going to be, yeah, so we can drop 2,100 and keep just the three pumps.
All right, $6,300.
So,
Sounds like we have to do this every year anyway,
yes,
so I make a motion for the department request of $6,300.
Second.
Motion made seconded, and anyone have anything else to discuss? All right, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? No, all 0. Item 0052 fire prevention, department request. $3,000. Is that just for the, where they go to the school?
that's for school, that's fire extinguisher training, smoke detectors for some of the elderly that need it, but it's all to do with fire prevention.
So forever, we used to spend about $500 in this line item. And now we're at $3,000, why?
Well, because we were asked to spend more money in fire prevention in the school system,
What are we spending the money on?
on equipment, on handouts, on smoke detectors. And stuff to give away to the kids.
I think, again, I don't know which grade it was, but I know like they got. My son came home with smoke detector. Can't remember what year it was, but
Yes.
so.
Came up at one of the meetings, Steve, is there any training that like one of the firefighters could have to be a town fire extinguisher?
To
do it in-
take care of fire extinguishers. What happens is the town insurance company, we used to do fire extinguishers, but the insurance company said it's such a liability, they did not want to touch.
Thank you. So it looks like we've spent $1,300 this year.
Yes.
I think that's around about where we ought to be spending annually. I would make a motion for, I'll round it out, $1,500.
Second.
Motion made seconded, discussion.
How many smoke detectors do you give out? And what's the criteria for people to get one?
We usually pick a class and anywhere from 100 to 175
We also have smoke detectors on hand at the firehouse. The resident of Lincoln, Chester, or Lincoln, can with them, we would offer installation for like other people who can't get on step ladder and install it themselves. We've gone out and done that several times. We have a couple boxes, and one who lives in the response area will install it.
I know our team magazine will say that the local fire department usually has it, so.
And that's why we have.
So we've only spent 1,300. Do you expect to spend more in the next 2 months or?
Yeah.
Note that if you go to page 25 of this document. That, in 2025, we spent around $1,000. So far this year, we spent $1,400, $1,350, $1,400. So if we boost that to $1,500, that's
Generous.
yes.
All those in favor? 12-0. Item 0060, safety compliance, federal request $14,205.
Well, the breathing air license, that's what we cost for a license. We breathe air compressor has to be tested yearly. The ground ladder has to be tested. They have to be tested lately, yearly. The area platform has to be tested yearly. Aerial ladder testing has to be done as well. The testing of air packs has to be done yearly. Certain percentage every time they expire, we have to have them done. It's usually 6 or 8 every year. The SUV flow tests on all the tanks. And hepatitis B shots and physicals for the firefighters. Fit test exams for firefighters. And emblematic for ambulance people.
Today, you've only spent $204.
Because this is all coming up right now. A lot of that stuff is the compressor was just tested. The aerial ladder has not been done as of yet. That'll be done very shortly. It's all summertime now. That's what people will come around and do the testing.
I make a motion for the department request 14,205. See second. Yeah. All right, discussion.
How did we manage to get all this compliance testing done in the past for like $5,000 or less?
It's the age of the breathing apparatus. Breathing apparatus was just done the last 2 days. They've been doing the breathing apparatus, and that's going to be really expensive. And it'll have to be done next year.
So how did we manage to get this compliance testing done in the past for much less cost? Like below $5,000?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but
If it only costs $5,000, that's all we will spend. That's
But is the fit test exams and the physical something new that's been recently?
they've had it for a long time.
And this is done by a physician?
Yes.
David,
Follow up on Ralph's question and your reply. We spent $200 through the end of March of this year. What is the schedule for testing and approving all of this equipment?
The testing is being set up in the hospital. Lieutenant Chris is setting it up for the 27 people that we have there. The SCBA flow tests were just done.
So you
Right
said-
now, that'll be off this year's budget, but we just spent all of the stuff is gonna be on this year's budget. And then 12 months from now, we'll be doing it all again.
So this testing tends to be concentrated in May and June. Is that what you're saying?
It has to be in May and June, no, I mean, but warm weather is when they like to do a lot of truck and the testing and all the other stuff that has to be done. No, we could do it in the middle of the winter, but
There's no regular schedule for these
yes,
tests.
it's right now, this That's what I just said, right, this time of year, that's when they come and do it.
In May and June, we're gonna spend $14,000.
I'm hoping we will spend that much money, but this is when the testing is, this is when the testing is done. And if you'd rather have us spend it than
No, I,
July and August, but that's when we're told not to spend money in July and August.
I'm not suggesting that at all, Chief Brown. I'm trying to understand if the regular schedule concentrates these tests in May and June. If that's the
Yeah.
case.
Yeah.
Then what
We
I
go-
would
what we
expect
do
is
is we
a
go-
competitive balance.
We go 12 months. The testing, and we have been asked by the town managers in the past and the council not to spend a lot of money in July, August and September because the money taxpayers have money that are coming in yet. Then it gets to be the colder weather for the pumps and every check. And that's why we do it.
Essentially, what your budgeting is, it might be less.
Correct.
So, but you have to have a number to budget for,
That's correct.
and again, you have to account for increases every year, so. You're budgeting for a number that could be a little over, but you're not gonna know the exact number because. You do it during their budget, so. All right, any other discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? Right? 7-5.
Can we get the first detailed report for fiscal year 25? We're running against a brick wall, like, in 10 months, and the last 2 months seems to be.
Before we come in, I will have a print the detail. When I come in with the cleaned up copies. I will have those to you. I guess I don't have to come in. I just bring the cleaned up copies to you.
Well, what he's asking for though is the previous year,
The
not,
print.
not the FY 26, but the previous.
The
2025.
previous, yes. Up to date? Yes,
Everything you
Yeah.
spent in
Yes.
fiscal year 25,
Yes.
because that year's done in the books. And if you can even, if you're right there with these, grab the next year fiscal year 25. What, we're looking at a very narrow snapshot, and it's hard for us to see where things are going, when we can see only 10 months out of this year, that's all. we can see.
yes.
Item 0108, contractual services, department request $60,000.
That's the Northern Lights that does our ambulance billing.
Who does the cancer screening one?
The cancer screening, that's correct. We have
Who
started,
does that?
we're doing it. I guess where we call it, Eastern Maine Medical Center, before we can get it set up.
This is cancer screening for town employees.
For the fire department employees, yeah. It was in the last year's contract.
And what are they looking for? Because there's a whole month.
Well, they do a random cancer test.
I can answer that. There's firefighters exposed to a great deal of percentages in the line of duty, and it's been found in the last 20 years or so that firefighters are at risk for certain types of cancer at a significantly higher rate than your average person. So I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what they are, but those are the ones that they test for, the ones that are most common in firefighters.
It's a silly question, because maybe this is a function of its peculiarities, but the town pays for a health plan. And this is not covered under the health plan for the employees.
That's correct.
And could you explain the Northern Lights ambulance billing? What is that?
That's the people that do our ambulance billing. They're the ones that if we transport you in the ambulance, we send the
Oh, it's a
paperwork to
billing
them.
service.
That's right.
Are they the only outfit that can do that billing?
No, there's several outfits that can do the billing.
Have we shopped around to see, is that the best?
We did,
price?
we did when we got them to do it. We shopped around and they was the best at the time.
$20,000 a week.
They do a percentage. But what happens with the smaller people that do billing? They lose employees and then billing gets behind and it doesn't work out. So Northern Lights has a lot of employees that do the billing, so we've never run into that problem with them. They've always have, if somebody gets done, they replace them and train them. So we have had very good luck with them.
And these are the billings that we have only marginal success on getting paid for.
Yes, and I have talked since our last meeting with Howland and with East Millinocket, and everyone's in the same boat, 43 to 46%.
They still collect significantly more.
Well, that's what I asked about your figures, and we need to have them come in to talk to you. Because they had no idea of the figures. So,
Those are their published figures.
Because they just had an article in the paper last week about them only bringing in like, what, 500,000 in revenue? Something like that, so.
Good budget, Central Highland budget for $1.1 million. And there's financials say they collected $1 million last year.
I think last week you had said, East Millinocket,
Collects about $900,000.
and they just read the paper saying they collected 500,000.
Well, they also trumped their servicing between the year that reported $900,000.
Historically, there's been no charges in this. How you been collecting money? Was it?
From the insurance companies, for the ambulance transport,
So who billed the insurance company?
that's what these guys are doing.
No, but historically, there's only one data point last year. It doesn't show any other data point for the last 5 years.
Probably in the MS line item that got merged into fire.
Yeah, it happened in the merger was 2025. Okay, so there was an EMS one before then.
Maybe I'll get you the numbers.
Les, I had asked you to check to see what percentage is uncollectible. And what do they do with those and how long do they leave them on the books?
we have that, they do it 2 years on the books. 2 years on the books, then it's very small percentage, what she told me. Very, very small to get in touch. And she said that maybe we would be better off if we hired someone to do the uncollected. Besides
So a
that,
collection agency,
collection agent,
is that what she's recommending?
that's what she's recommended. But she said that they get very small return.
Right, so right now, you're saying that there's a small amount that they don't collect. It's a small amount that,
Yeah, small amount that they do collect,
oh,
even when they do.
she couldn't give you a percentage.
That's what she said, a very small collection.
I would imagine unless it's Medicare, Medicare, that's right, or insurance.
Self-pay,
Probably,
that self-pay,
yeah,
that
small, self-pay. Because again, if they don't pay it, there's nothing, you can't deny service, like if it was a private entity that would deny service. There's nothing to do with the bucket. Send questions.
Sorry to keep doing this, but to date, we've only kind of with under $20,000. We've got another $35,000, and then we have the next 18.
and that is what are we talking?
Contractual services 0108.
Yeah,
Going,
they charge us a percentage of what they bill out. So that's how that all works, is a percentage.
they made only be like 25,000 by the end of the year.
It's possible, but I would say that they've been averaging right on around that same amount. They just do it monthly.
Like public study.
Yes.
Have that re-
Does that mean we collected less this year?
I'm gonna say we have not got the final tallies for this year, so, yeah.
But I mean, to date, then, I mean, you're roughly,
It would mean that we got less, yeah.
we have 4,000, you're roughly 4,000 a month, you know, average, like, that means they're. They only get paid on what they collect, or do they get paid on what they bill or what they collect?
We take collect.
So, I mean, we're collecting a lot less, so that revenue for the end of the year might be lower.
Just validating, because I've heard they charge on what they bill. And now I've heard they charge on what they.
No,
collect.
I'm sorry. Yeah, so they charge them, they do charge them what they bill, how much they bill an hour.
Is there any way, Les, that you can get a report from them as to what percentage is main care and what percentage is insurance paid and what percentage is self-pay?
Yes.
It'd be interesting to see that year to year from this company, if we can get that information. And I would suggest too, that you may want to go out to bid with that cancer screening, maybe somebody locally, either Health Access or Scott Valley could do that at a cheaper rate. I don't know. This is the first year you're gonna be doing that.
First year.
But then, I was gonna say, I'm also suspecting, like, given the age of the town, you've got a lot of folks on social security, Medicare, as well as Medicaid. So that will also skew your numbers according to the benefits.
Well, yeah, but Medicare would fall in that category of insurance, right? If they're billing main care and Medicare.
It doesn't pay.
Right, I understand main care doesn't pay the full bill, but then the balance will go to Medicare. And they will pay something.
They pay something, yeah.
But not the full rate,
No, I'm sure.
that's the whole problem.
I'll make a motion for the department request only because. It's a number we don't really know. It's gonna depend on what they bill, so if we don't, if they bill less. The number could be less, if they bill more, it's gonna be more, so. I would make the note that anything that's left over in the current expense item be used to offset this though.
Put it in the reserve account, you mean?
Yeah, reserve account or, yeah, reserve account would be ideal to offset this numbers.
That was full discussion in the reserve account. Who knows what's in the reserve account? Sit there and balance all this stuff.
Treasurer would.
Well, the treasurer is responsible for that.
Let's keep track of it.
Our former treasurer did have ledgers with the account balance.
It makes it really tricky for somebody to look at this from our standpoint, to see, because you keep on moving stuff in and out of the line. So it's very hard to do historical checks, like Ralph's taking all the time to do it, but that's my only concern about doing that. Okay.
That's what be able to pull that extract from the ledger to be able to see what's been recorded against what, not just what was budgeted. And then sometime later what was spent, but I would look at it, say if we've rolled X amount of dollars into reserve and we're looking at that is at the end, we should be about truing it up to say, this is what was requested, this is what was approved, and here was the amount of reserves rolled forward to deduct that off. So you come up with your final number.
Because the council's done in the past was that we've done reserve accounts, we've not done reserve accounts. But the one way is that if there's money left over, so say there's 600,000 left over on all accounts, that goes in undesignated funds. And the council, when they approve the budget, they take 600,000 out of undesignated to offset the current budget. So again, doesn't really matter how you do it. It's just as long as the council using that money to offset.
Recognizing the fact that money wasn't spent this year and rolling it over to the cover budgetary needs for the current upcoming year.
Again, because the council can decide not to do any reserve accounts and they'll just do it the way they've been doing it, so. That's their prerogative, so, but again, as long as. In my view, as long as we're showing that there's money left over and you're not needing to raise. Money for it. This upcoming year, a certain amount, so.
Hopefully offsetting the mill rate, so it's not as high. If they can use money that's not being spent out of this current year's budget, they can roll it over into this proposed budget. It will decrease the mill rate.
So that reserve account was reserved for only that line item, unless they decide to move it. This is the whole, so
Yeah.
it's either reserved or it's not reserved.
Well,
That's what the whole word reserve, so that's
Yeah.
the whole tricky part of this. Yeah, start to become funny.
yes,
You are correct.
yes.
You take it back, because then comes the request for equipment that was approved and money was set aside in the reserve account. and it's
Not there,
approved.
not there.
Could you spend it, yeah? Okay, so what's the motion?
The motion is to, for the department request. With the note that anything left over in that, in the expense item currently in the current budget. Be used to offset this in a reserve account for next year. Motion's been seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? 11-1. And we will move to capital. I don't know if there's anything for capital.
Wait, wait.
Oh,
Fire station.
I'm sorry, we still got, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, 0307 ambulance lease for 64,245.
I mean,
That's it.
I'll second that. Any other discussion on the ambulance lease for 64,245?
64, 245.
245, I'm sorry, yes. 64. Right, all those in favor? All those opposed? Right, 10-2.
Oh, that's two.
And then,
then- Didn't Dave say he was gonna use 0308 for something else?
yes, thank
oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I suggest that, we allocate sufficient funds, to replace some of the fire vehicles. And I suggest that we budget $175,000.
So you're gonna put that in the regular budget, the 175,000?
I'm putting it on line 030.
Or you're gonna rename,
I'm gonna strike that. And just call it fire vehicle.
That wouldn't be capital. So we're saying it's a lease versus capital?
yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
I just want it somewhere on the town books.
That we're putting that amount of money aside for eventual purchase of that equipment? Is that what you're thinking?
I think we have to budget $175,000 a year to replace the,
Well, that's the idea of a
three vehicles.
of a capital reserve account too.
Dennis?
We should put that in capital.
Why do you think?
Okay, so we're gonna wait and vote on that when we get to capital. We'll have to remember to do that.
Or do we want to?
Were we going to capital?
No.
Well, we usually go to do the capital for each department,
Oh, okay, good.
so we can do,
Oh, we do? Yeah,
We have done. it.
we haven't done it for any other department so far.
Not a snake on
We're
that.
out of control.
so we can. Long as everyone's good, we can just put it in there and vote on it when we do capital.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Put a note in there for 175,000 for,
So we can use that 0307 ambulance lease for 0308 vehicle purchase. The capital,
yeah, we can,
is that okay? Just remember to do that. Well, there was a discussion that all the boosters were in the regular operating budget. So that's why we left it in the operating budget. But there is a capital line item called ambulance leave.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We can
yes,
use, yeah,
yes, I agree with that.
just use that number and call it
Yes, ma'am.
fire vehicle purchase.
Don't we have a line item already for fire department
Reserve?
03 in under capital,
Oh,
0360?
I don't see anything here. No, no.
Last year's budget, let's see, put that line item out.
They
Well,
took it out.
they did.
Okay.
Well, maybe we should put it back in.
There you go.
To your
Or they
point.
could-
So 0360. 0360 fire vehicle. Okay. Hopefully we'll get there from him.
What? Are you looking at, account 0900 capital improvement?
Yeah. And
And the line item you refer to is,
it's not in there, but Byron said last year they had a line item called 0360 fire vehicle. Yeah, 0360.
We're adding a lot into this.
Back.
Give me a second, I can tell you what we had in that.
So we're all done with fire now, George?
Yeah, we are on the
Fund special.
public safety.
Public safety building.
We'll start with
Should be called fire station, but it's not public safety anymore.
page 57. We'll start with 0027 consumables. Department will pass for $3,600.
Yes.
I regularly drop back to the 3100 with that. Because we just purchased a vacuum cleaner the other day that we lost the vacuum cleaner, and that's what I had budgeted for. So if we go to $3,100, that's what we need. That covers our paper products, paper towels, toilet paper, waxes, everything that we use around.
So I make a motion for the department request of 3,100.
second,
Any discussion? All those in favor?
And so
Anyone opposed? 0.
equipment maintenance, radio, there was a radio maintenance, that was a repeater that we had to use to the hill over here. And antenna on the roof, we no longer using it. So that's gone. It's, today they changed the radio systems all over.
So that line item is going.
So that line's gone.
Item 0031 equipment purchase, department request $64,000.
So you said last year in FY 26, you had budgeted that, but you couldn't use it because you're over expended in the fire department.
On the. We're down on the building grounds maintenance.
No,
All
we're
right,
down to
All
equipment.
right, so on the equipment, Berg, that's correct. We put money, but we have held that over because of what we have spent on vehicle maintenance. We have not done any work to the wall, the bay at all. We did have to replace some. Did some work in the bathroom. Our bathrooms. Did not flush well, and we've had a lot of problems. We had to replace. Some toilets, and that we did use some of the money of that. But that was it.
So this door repair, is that the overhead door or is that something else?
On the equipment purchases, we have. Two front doors, the one that. You would use if you come to our station. That catches, it's jammed up, it does not work. And the one at the very right-hand side of the bay, when you go in, you go to open that door and you cannot open it. You can't lock it. You have to really pull it hard and lock it. So we have replaced most of the windows, but now we're looking at replacing the doors. So we have 3 doors that need to be repaired. And replaced.
And have those already been quoted out?
They have not been quoted out because we have learned that by quoting out, then when we got ready to do the job, people don't want to come quote anymore, because we put it, but. With the metal. Replacement doors and we've been told roughly $4,000 a piece, but I know that by listening to. Someone's budget the other day on the library doors, they can buy them for $1,000, but ours is a metal. And brick front that. Gonna take some while. The floors themselves gonna have to repair before doors can go in. The building is getting so it's in pretty bad shape.
Old and the.
That's right. And we also have, what you're gonna see on the overhead door, we have one overhead door that the 2 bottom panels have taken in the water. And it's really giving us a hard time with that door. We replaced parts on the other 3 doors to get it by, and I think we're in good shape with the other doors. But then also, we'd like to do some wall repairs and we need some more work done in the bathrooms on the floors. And that's just upkeep to building. That's just normal upkeep. Nothing is replacing other than.
So why isn't all of the door repair and the wall and floor or the building around, why isn't that all? The one,
Because. We're replacing and before, the other one is just maintenance and upkeep on the overhead door maintenance. And this is replacement. And this is where we have been putting the money in the last few years. So we're replacing doors, we're replacing. Parts of them.
I mean, I personally would like to see the town that should have taken the money out of designated funds for the. For the vehicle maintenance and then kept this line item. Have it done this year, so. Cause that's what we budgeted for, but.
We can do
We
whatever
don't,
whatever you
what's it-
prefer.
We don't get to decide. how to
No,
go to that.
you don't.
I would make a motion for the Department of Request of $64,000. Discussion. Like I said, I can attest to how there's been a lot of maintenance in that building over the years, like trying to get the upkeep done because it went many years, so nothing like $500. Over the last like 10 years, we've tried to really budget for it as we can, so.
The only comment I have is perhaps using some of the stuff over 48,000 we have to spend this year.
That was taken out and put in for the vehicle maintenance.
Yeah, he
so.
said he wasn't allowed to spend it so that he could
No.
pay for the overrun in his vehicle maintenance under fire.
I wasn't not allowed, I was
Oh.
asked
To
if
not,
I can hold off the whole lot.
sorry,
Any other discussion?
This is which line item? 31?
0031, yeah. All those in favor? All those opposed? All right, 11-1. 0050, buildings, grounds and maintenance, Department requests $16,700.
That's furnace clean, maintain. That's anything to do with the boiler. We've got a new gas boiler in there, but we still got all the heaters out in the bag and registers in the bag. We still got a lot of maintenance there that needs that. And that's the annual generator check up. And so on, so power goes off. And general building maintenance, backflow test valves, electrical work done, all of that is yearly. And overhead door maintenance, that's where the maintenance of doors, because we have the other doors where we got some springs that are broke, and it's just regular maintenance.
I make a motion for the Department request of $16,700.
Second.
Discussion?
I'm probably really out of touch with how much all of those costs to maintain it, just $10,000 on maintenance seems a little heavy.
Well, it is heavy, but when the last few bills was like 4,000, when we have to get them to come down from Bolton or come up from Herman, their service of their life because the springs are broke. And then the springs are
How are the springs breaking? Door springs should last for a long.
well, that's what we thought too. But we had one set of springs that went. We had brand new springs on and they did warranty that, but they went. Within 6 months, it will be able to put up. They're heavy doors, but I agree, they
Yeah, I have a 16-foot wide door and the spring broke exactly when it said it would. It's about 12 years.
and one of the doors come down on a fire truck. They're going,
So. We have, building and grounds maintenance in this department, but we've also got building and grounds maintenance in a lot of other areas. Do we, capitalize on these service people to do all the work around the town to get, the best?
it is almost impossible for us to find people that will come to work. Someone will come put windows in this year, and next year we try to get them, and we can find a lot of people that do not have insurance and do not have the workers' comp, but we're not allowed to use them.
So my question is, when we bring the service people in, do we have them do public works and fire and safety and the town office and all the places that need
We do with-
services at the
with-
same time?
When we do the maintenance, when they come in and do the maintenance on our overhead doors, the yearly maintenance, and yeah, Public Works uses them, we use them. We all try to coordinate it, but it's no cheaper. They still charge us the same price.
You have had to use emergency call out the PDQ door a few times as well, because if an ambulance goes out at 2 AM and in the middle of January, they're gonna charge an extra fee to come close that door when it's snowing outside. Or at least fix it so it can open back up.
I'll further on what Les said. We had a contract with PDQ Door to service all the doors in the town. And they did. They came twice a year and serviced them. But when a door broke, we have no control when that happens. And the price was always the same as it would have been otherwise.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? 12-0. All right, line item 0060, safety compliance, department request $950. What's the items?
It's, we have replaced. Again, in the last, if we could cut that in half, because we just had the electrical in, and he did a bunch of work on our electric boxes and changed the stuff, the cords that come down if I do a fire truck, which was a compliance with. But we just had a safety inspection, we had to do that, so that is, we can cut that to $500 if we would like.
I think we can cut it to 400. We've never spent more than 300 as far as I can tell in the past. I'd make a motion for 400. Is this the one that included the fire hydrant? Cutting,
The fire hydrant.
no, not fire hydrants, sorry, fire extinguishers. And the emergency lights.
They paid for the fire department's fire extinguishers to be.
I don't see how insurance companies can say that in the fire department. That goes out and fight fires, and they can't look at a game.
Well, it's not the gauge, it's they have to weigh them, they have to have certain test dates on them. And if all of a sudden we fill their fire extinguisher, which has been done, and you go to use it on your house that's burning and it doesn't work, then don't like.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Motion made, seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
But do you use natural gas to heat? Yes.
Where's cost for that last?
It's under the utility budget line.
On the utility.
All fair, thank you. Good.
Clarify, we go back to the account 0304. Did we vote on through the number for wages and overtime to the lines 1 and 2?
And we don't vote, you can make the recommendation.
Right. Yes.
What page on?
The wages for the fire
It's
department,
the-
0001, 48 and 49.
It's the summary page of the firehouse.
Summary.
Oh,
Well, it's also,
The department summary, it's the first page under fire.
you bet, you have notes, right?
I have notes from when you spoke earlier.
Well, earlier in the meeting,
Tonight's meeting, yes.
after I spoke and started going through the line items.
Mhm.
Did we vote on a recommendation for wages in fiscal year 27?
No,
Yeah, so
Should we do so?
we asked them to come back
Okay,
with the overtime, corrected, but we could add that in, so, I mean, we could. Make a recommendation.
so we sent that back to the bond, those two on there and back to the bond. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, it's 5 minutes to 9. Do we want to call this now and start out fresh on Thursday with the police budget?
And if we could have those numbers in the,
We'll do that.
so we could start, I mean, I don't wanna
Take
keep,
just a few minutes with firehouse and then we'll start.
Yeah.
fresh.
I don't wanna keep anybody come back, but. And is it just wait for the next one? Is that all we're doing?
Takes up the whole night. But we can fill it, if we find ourselves with a half hour, 45 minutes, there's a couple small utilities, things like that we can fill in.
They felt literally alone. I think that's gonna take long.
so is that something you can get for the, Dennis, can you get those prior fiscal years like we have?
I will.
Excuse me?
Say thank you for the can.
No problem.